Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to demonstrate some of the new capabilities of our flagship product, System Integrator version 14. I'm Tim Bagonis, CMO here at D-Tools, and joining me today will be Seth Enos, Product Manager for System Integrator. First off, some housekeeping. If you haven't attended a webinar with us before, it's very simple. We will be presenting via GoToMeeting. We will have a questions panel in your interface on the right side of your screen. So throughout the presentation, if you have questions, go ahead and log them there. We'll do our best to answer questions within the flow of the demonstration, but we will have dedicated time at the end for Q&A. So if we don't get to your question during the presentation, that's okay. We'll have dedicated time at the end. If you need more viewing real estate on your screen, click the little arrow button and that will close your GoToMeeting control panel. Okay, what we'll cover today is we'll provide some background on D-Tools, how we serve our customers, and we'll provide a brief overview of System Integrator for those of you who may not be familiar with us. And then we'll jump right into reviewing the new capabilities in version 14. Then I'll hand it over to Seth, who will demonstrate these new features. As I mentioned, there will be Q&A, so as we go through the presentation, feel free to log your questions. We will be recording this webinar and it will be distributed to all attendees. So a bit about D-Tools, some background on us for those of you who may not be familiar. We were founded in 1998 by Adam Stone, who was himself a system integrator, and Adam really pioneered a process of tying data to drawings. He did this to help really streamline his own processes and then realized he had a solution that could benefit other companies in the industry. Since then, we've grown to almost 7,000 companies who use us worldwide, both on the residential and commercial side of AV, as well as security, IT, networking, and other low voltage disciplines. We continually improve upon the software, and 3 major releases a year is what we shoot for, and we continue to win awards. We do have a very strong team who is fully committed to listening to our customers and providing long-term success. So a little bit about System Integrator for those who may not be familiar. I realize we have a lot of customers, existing customers at this webinar, but I know there's also companies who may not yet have discovered us. So System Integrator is a comprehensive solution that can help streamline your entire business process, from estimation and proposals to detailed engineering drawings and documentation, through back office, purchasing, installation, and ongoing service. SI leverages an extensive integrated library of thousands of AV, security, and IT products, hundreds of thousands of SKUs from thousands of manufacturers. This product information includes manufacturer, model number, MSRP, and even recommended install times to help with an accurate proposal, as well as engineering specifications such as dimensions, inputs and outputs, which really can be leveraged to generate very detailed engineering drawings. And then we also provide dealer-specific pricing for hundreds of brands, with more being added every week. This product data really drives all operations within SI and is the core of our data-driven process. On the sales side, SI offers powerful management capabilities for sales, from our mobile quote app that enables you to develop project scope and budget, secure the job, accept a project deposit or design retainer in that first client meeting. That information syncs directly to SI so you can create a detailed proposal, which is organized by location, system, and phase. As you add products to your bill of materials, SI is tracking the labor time and calculating a fully installed price, enabling you to generate fast, accurate professional proposals, contracts, and other client documentation. You can create and present service plans, and we integrate directly with Great America Financing so you can present your clients with AV as a service options, which help grow recurring revenues. That same product information is leveraged to create detailed engineer drawings in either AutoCAD or Visio. You can quickly generate line diagrams, plan views, elevations, and schematic drawings by either dragging and dropping from the bill of materials, or you can start with a drawing, and as you add items to the drawing, it automatically builds out the bill of materials. From these drawings, you can generate installation reports such as rack specifications, wire schedules, and even generate wire labels for the entire job. Then that same information can be leveraged around project planning and execution. Because we're tracking things by location, by system, by phase, and we've got that install time, you can use SI to schedule out installation tasks, manage your field teams, generate service orders, and all of that information that happens out in the field can be tracked and logged and brought back into SI so you can measure estimated versus actual time to install. We also have strong capabilities around service orders and case management. And then we integrate with QuickBooks and a number of other third-party applications to help eliminate double data entry and reduce the risk of human error. As we'll see later in the presentation, our powerful business intelligence, analytics, and reporting capabilities help our customers measure and track key performance indicators to ultimately help you make better business decisions. When the entire tool set is used, SI dramatically improves operational efficiencies and bottom line results. So let's take a look at what's new in this version. This release really focuses on adding powerful new capabilities that are specific to project planning and execution while improving the overall user experience. We've updated the UI through new icons and redesigned ribbons and really made it easier to navigate throughout the application. We've improved our business intelligence so that now that you can track and measure across clients, projects, tasks, and service plans so that you can really track your KPIs, understand where you are with the business, and make better decisions. We've added more CRM functionality to the application. So now you can actually track prospective clients by lead source. We've added stages and associated probabilities to opportunities so that now you can really track the sales process from that initial client engagement through the proposal through to the close and won opportunity. This really helps for detailed forecasting and better pipeline management. On the project execution side and planning, we've added the ability to create customizable checklists. These checklists can be created and saved for future use. Some common use cases might include product or project commissioning, tasks that need to be completed during a system wellness check, and you can even create process maps to outline the steps needed to complete an entire project. These checklists can be sent out to your team and they can be used to automatically populate our new Gantt charts. And Gantt charts provide a visual tool for managing the project through milestones, assigning tasks, and assigning resources. This really lays out the steps needed to complete the job, and then we can take anything that's laid out in a Gantt chart and automatically create install tasks that can be published to mobile install directly from the Gantt chart. And then lastly, you can now have the ability to create batch purchase orders across multiple projects and multiple vendors by phase, system, or location. This really provides your purchasing teams with improved efficiency and enables you to better take advantage of things like volume purchase discounts, meeting stocking requirements, and really helps improve the efficiency of the purchasing team. And with any SI release, we always add new capabilities, enhancements. This is really just a high-level overview of some of the major features. So now I'm going to turn it over to Seth, who's going to provide a demonstration of some of the new capabilities.
All right, thank you, Tim. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. My name is Seth, and I'm the product manager here at DTools for System Integrator. So here is version 14, and the first thing we'll talk about is the new UI look. You can see that we've added new icons throughout SI. We took away a lot of the colors that were spread throughout the software, and we've limited those down to, I think it's 4 different potential colors in these. This is just an example of some of the new icons, but let's go into a project very quickly and then take a look at some of the other redesigns. We tried as much as possible to remove the small icons from the ribbon. They were having issues with the higher display monitors out there, and tried to make these all large and very simple, the basic icons. So we've added a lot of drop-down menus for you here. For if you want to open something, you have your entire list here versus little tiny icons that were scattered throughout the ribbon. We also consolidated a lot of the features. We've been around, SI has been around for 20 years, and this particular interface has been around for at least, I think, 8-9 years now. And as we're adding features, we're sticking them all over the place, and we try to just make sure that we consolidated them to make them make more sense. And then we also took it another step, and we can added consistency to the ribbons in our explorers all throughout the software, where common functions will be on every single tab now. We've gotten feedback over the years from users that if they wanted to use a quick filter, for instance, but they're on the wrong tab up here along the top, they don't have access to that particular function. So what we're looking at here is a project editor. So from the quick filter on over, all of these will be repeated on every column. So if you're every tab. So every time you switch here, you'll see that these are consistent, the auto fit columns, refreshing, and of course your quick filters. And depending on the Explorer, the consolidation changed for that. So we also removed the explicit settings tab from all of the Explorers, and we added a drop down here to every single tab. So no matter where you are or what you're working on, you can use this drop down to open up settings. And again, this is just an example from a project editor, but they're also throughout Project Explorer, Task Explorer, Service Order Explorer, etc. So, all right. So there's that. While I'm here, I'm going to sneak in one of our new features before I go to some of the larger ones and show you a new option we have for one of the views out here. This was a big request from a lot of you for a long time, so we decided to put that into this release. And that is on this item summary view. A few releases ago, we gave you the ability to increase and decrease the quantities here, but the biggest complaint we had is that we don't show packages in this view here. It's just the individual items. So if you go to your Layouts tab here, when you're in this view, you now have the option to display packages. So packages will now display in here, and you can group these if you'd like. You didn't have grouping before. It was always just a flat list of all the items in the project. But if we wanted to see what was by location, you'll get your quantity and counts by either location or system or any combination thereof. So I just wanted to stop here and show that, and I'm going to go back here to our home page. And the first major feature I'm going to talk about is business analytics. So we revisited what we used to call dashboards in SI, and back in version 13 and before that, we created this entity called dashboards, but it's pretty limited. It was only run for projects or project items. And so we've expanded upon that and renamed these business analytics. And these are intended to give you a better insight into key performance indicators for your company, as well as provide you access to data that was previously like a tedious process and required either a custom report to get this data or exports from multiple areas of SI, and then you're combining that data in Excel and manipulating it there. So let's go ahead and click this Business Analytics button here, and that's going to open up the Business Analytics Explorer. It is its own window here, and I'll expand that full screen. So again, previously we were limited to just 2 entities here. Now we've expanded those to all of the entities essentially that are in SI. So clients, project change orders, this was here before project items, but purchase orders, tasks, service orders, and service plans. And we're going to expand one of these here. When I launched this, it ran the top one here in the list. As you can see, this says leads count by owner, and it's showing me a chart. So there are two types of business analytics out here. There are these chart types, and then there are also list types. And a list type, I'll give you an example here. Let's go to project change orders, and I'm going to choose to run the all pending change orders. And so this is a default, or one of the samples that we ship v14 with, and this will show me all pending change orders across all projects, or based on the filter that I've set. So you either have a chart or you have this, which is a list type, and you can create out here new chart types for any entity or list types. You can also clone existing ones. That will give you a head start. We don't assume that everyone's going to use our samples here, but we wanted to give you a basis for what you can do out here based on your role within the company. You know, if you're a sales manager, you're going to want to see certain business analytics. If you're a project manager or a service manager, everyone has different needs for what you want to see. So you're able to customize these out here based on your permissions within SI. Okay, so let me just go here. Sorry, I'm catching up here on my stuff. So we've talked about cloning these. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the fields you might see over here and show those to you. We made some changes in SI and improvements in order to make these business analytics work for you. And one of the things we did is add the concept of leads and prospects into SI. We've never really had that before. We also added in opportunities. So I'm going to talk about those very quickly and take you elsewhere in the software, and then we'll come back here and run a few more business analytics and round this out. So let me go ahead and minimize this. So the leads and prospects, if we go to manage your clients, we've added a type field here. And when a client is created, they're considered a lead. Even if you import from a spreadsheet, they're considered a lead out here just by default. That will be the type. In order for a lead to move to a prospect, that'll happen when you create a project or, say, a service plan for that client. They will be marked as a client type once the project has been won or the service plan, for instance, has been accepted. And that's just the flow that we have in the software. This is an editable field, though, so if you want to change it manually, you certainly can. But that's just our workflow of going from lead to prospect to an actual client. And we also added a lead source field for your business analytics, so kind of one of our CRM features. So this concept of leads, prospects, and clients, and this lead source, as you can see here, is a sample list that we ship v14 with. But of course, you can modify this, and as you're adding your leads or importing your leads, you can choose your lead sources from this list and be able to view those under business analytics. So that's one change we made here. I'm just going to scoot back here and open up this project here as well. Project fields were also needed in order to make these business analytics work for us. So let's go here to open project information. And I'll show you some of the new fields here. This one, we've always had a project status, but what we added was a probability percentage for all open states. So if I choose manage project statuses, you can see all of my open state statuses have the ability to modify a probability percentage. And this is a number that you will come up with on your likelihood of closing that project or that deal. So again, you're going to customize this list. Everyone's already customized their project status list over time, I'm sure, but this is the new field in order to introduce the concept of opportunities. And then, of course, when you're running the business analytics for opportunities, which are open projects, not one projects, we'll do the math based on the project total times this probability, so you can get more accurate numbers. So for when you're managing your sales process. We also added explicit fields here for sales rep, project manager, and designer. They've always been considered, you could add those as resources, but resources in our software can have multiple roles associated with them. And this is a way for you to set a primary, to point out a specific person. And this way, this helps with business analytics too, because you may want to see your BA run by project manager, or if you are a project manager, you may choose by sales rep, I need to see these, or by designer, I need to see this information. So these are now set fields. It used to be just assigned to. That's all the only real field we had for that. So those are now explicit fields. And then we added an estimated close date and an actual close date. And again, this goes into your sales, your pipeline management and your sales process management to be able to predict, not only do we have a probability of something closing, and we were going to choose a date on when that should close, so you can run, how many projects will close in the next month, for instance. So that I took you out of business analytics to show you those because they're important to explain what you're seeing out here. So again, we've got leads, and we have prospects, and we have these opportunities here. I'm going to give you a quick example here of opportunities closing in the next 30 days. So again, that's based off of that estimated close date, and as well as many other factors here. And this is the sample BA for that. Now, real quickly, I mentioned earlier that you can create new ones, or you can clone our existing BA. Well, while this is selected, I'm just going to clone this and show you the fields and the improvements made here. This is a list type. So in a list type, what you're going to see here is a list of fields. And in this case, the entity is the project. So these are all project-based fields that you can choose to drag over, or use the arrows here to put in this list, move them up and down in the order you want them to display. You can choose default sorting if you want to here. In this case, this is what we have it by default, and then filters. So this is the real powerful part of our business analytics. Back when these were called dashboards, we had very limited filters for you could pick and choose from. What we did here is we added queries. And up until this point in SI, you've only been able to query our catalog. It's the only place we had the functions for the product editor. Product Explorer is where you could run queries. Now you can run queries across projects, change orders, purchase orders, all of the entities inside of SI, and they are very powerful. You can see you build your logic statements here with your fields, your operators, and then based on the operator you choose, we have quite a few choices to choose from, so you can really narrow down these analytics and customize them specifically for you. Now, if you're doing a chart type, for instance, though, slightly different, we'll say we'll do a chart for a client. So this is the one that's like a graph. Give it a name. You can choose different types, bar, pie, or table. We have here, in this case, the groupings that are allowed for a chart style. And then the filters. The filters are the same, though. You're going to come here and you're going to build a query which gives you the power to really, again, narrow down the data that you're looking for. So that's business analytics, but there is an additional feature here. And some of you have likely already seen it. When you've launched v14, each time you launch it until you say don't or do this anymore, or you set it up, we prompt you to choose to display business analytics on your home page. And that's what you're seeing right here, this homepage analytics button. That's another way that I can set that up if I have closed that prompt. And when we say homepage, that's this. So when you launch SI, this is a web page with links, and we'll put news out here sometimes, but oftentimes there's just links for like training or professional services. So rather than have this display, you can choose to add homepage analytics, either from the Business Analytics Explorer, or you can even do it from here, where you see homepage analytics. So let's just, from here, I'm going to go ahead and add some over here. So I'm going to choose a leads count by lead source, for instance, because that's one of our new fields. And let's do a prospects count. So again, these are unwon projects. We'll do it by owner in this case. For here, let's do opportunities. We'll do profit, and we'll do it by sales rep. And last but not least, I'm going to put a list type so you can see it. And I like the all pending change orders one, because you could never see that prior to this. Oops, let me add that. Now you can add up to 6. I'm only going to add 4. Let's save this. And they will display side by side here, and you can scroll down to see the data. And now each time you open SI, you can choose to view this versus that web page, should you choose to like this. Now, if you want to modify any of these on the fly here, you can. Now, again, these are the sample ones, so any changes here aren't going to save. But if I wanted to have these saved permanently, I would just clone an existing one, make my changes, and that would become my homepage analytics here. But if you do want to manipulate these on the fly here, change the view here, there's just a little drop-down menu here, hidden by default, where you can change your filters, change your grouping even, or in this case, I'll make this a pie chart in this example. So it all depends on your own personal preferences. So that is business analytics. And I am now going to move over and talk about our next major feature, checklists. Checklists allow you to create essentially templates of things to do, and they can be added to projects, tasks, and service orders. So one place that you can set them up is here in the control panel. We've added just a global checklist option here. And again, here's a sample list of some checklists. So remember, checklists can be project related, or they could be task related or service order related. In this case, we have the different phases of a project broken out. When you're creating a new one, or actually, let me just show you one first. I'll open this, and you can see in this list, I've added an item here, and then there are items that are subbed in beneath it, child elements. So we have promote and demote for that. You can build a hierarchical list is the point out here if you want. If a to-do list or a to item here has 3 sub to-do items, you can do that up to 3 levels, mind you. I just want to point that out. It could also just be a flat list for these checklists. And so when you're building these, a new one, you're really just giving it a name and then building that list, whether you do it as a hierarchy or not. You've got controls here for you're creating a new, and then again, I've mentioned promote, demote, and move up and move down. So that is where you will manage and build your checklist. And then again, the point of these, the primary functionality will be to associate those to a project, task, or a service order. So, well, I'm here. We have, okay, here's a project. I'm going to choose under the open menu, there's open checklists. For a project, you can do this here in the project editor, or you can do it from the project explorer. Same command, open checklist. I don't have any checklists for this particular project, so we'll add one. So there's the list you just saw, and I'll pick this one for an example. And as soon as you add it, it opens for edit within this project. So as you can see, you manage your list out there by just building the names, and then they become this entity here. We have a bunch of different fields for it, a checkbox to mark whether something was completed or not. And we'll automatically fill in the completed on, completed by, change the status to completed. If you want to add notes, you can. You absolutely can do that here. One other little feature we added for these checklists are if you put something on hold from this list here of statuses, we're going to put a little icon next to this, and that will also display next to the checklist itself for a project. A project can have multiple checklists, so it could be pre-sales checklist, then an engineering checklist, a post-sales checklist, a finalized checklist. It's really up to you what you use these for. And you can have as many as you want for a project. And you see here, we'll show you the status of this. Now, there's also the ability to print these out. We just called it a preview here. We'll click that here. And this is just going to run a quick little checklist report that shows everything that you see there on the screen, essentially. Just expand that for you. There's the little one that has a problem, and just does some, looks like our stock reports there. So that's a checklist with a project. Let's go back here. I'm going to scroll down, and let's create a service order here. So I have a project here, and I'm going to create a quick service order. There we go. And I'm going to say wellness check. And I am going to add myself as a resource before I forget, so I can actually show more functionality here. So there I am as a resource. Notice the checklist tab here. So for a task and a service order, you can only assign one checklist in this first rev. We limited it to that because there's an extra little feature here when they're on a task or a service order, and that is that these do publish to mobile install. There'll be a new tab in mobile install where you will be able to, or your technicians will be able to, check off these items in the field, and that information will synchronize back down to SI. So here I'll add a system wellness checklist, and here are all the parts. So again, they can be edited here directly in SI if you're not using mobile install. But if you are, let's go ahead and publish this. I'll show you that where that exists out there. So publish, we don't need to attach anything, and we'll save and close this for now. And let's go out here to mobile install. Let me see, service orders, what do I have? A wellness check here. So here we have, I'm sure you're all familiar that have used this. This is our mobile install interface. Over here on the left, you have all these tabs, and here's the checklist tab. So this is where the users in the field can check these off, and I'm just walking down here as I'm talking. You've got your status list that's editable as well. And very commonly, they may be adding notes in the field. So we've got like an internet speed test here, you know, and I'll just put a note, 310 BPS, save it. So I've added a note there. And so this is now just more information coming back from the field, in addition to, of course, what we've had for a long time, site items, site notes, site images, more feedback from the field that to-dos were accomplished. So let me just go ahead and save this, and just to be proper, let's just mark this as completed. Back in SI, let's go ahead and navigate here and open this service order, and you will see synchronizing out there with mobile install. You can see obviously it's been marked as completed. That's always done that, but here's the checklist and marked as completed by who, and there are the notes that come in here. And again, you can preview this if needed, if you need to PDF that or just view it in a different view. Okay, so that's essentially checklists in the software, essentially because there is an extra little feature with checklists, and that is that you can build a checklist and use it to populate your Gantt charts should you choose to do so. And that's going to be the next feature that I take you through is our Gantt chart. So every project has a Gantt view, a Gantt chart. So while I have a project selected, I'm going to click Gantt view, and I'll expand this full screen. So here is the Gantt chart for this particular project. They're going to start blank. You have, I'll talk about all these fields in a second here, but the major things that you're doing here are adding tasks or subtasks out here. And you can do that quite a few ways. You can, add a task this way. You can add from project, or you could add from a checklist, and I'll demonstrate all of these here. But adding a task is just manually adding a task. Now, if you want to shrink some of these rows as you go, you can, as I'm talking here. But just so you see more of them, you can also stretch this over a little bit. I don't want to go too far with it right now. But that's just manually adding a task. You can give it a name. You notice this default duration came in at 8 hours. And it starts with today's start and end date. Now, this 8 hours was dictated by a new task setting that we added. You see up here. We've added this. What's your default duration in hours for a task? Prior to this release, we always created tasks, scheduled tasks out in SI at 2 hours on the day that you're creating them. Now you get to pick and choose what you want your default here to be. So that's why that came in like that. So manually add tasks all day long, no problem. Again, add task. So that's one method. But we wanted to obviously, since we are a software company, we don't want to just give you a Gantt view that you could be doing outside of our software. We wanted to tie it into all of, or a lot of the data that we already have inside of SI for you. So I'm going to quickly demonstrate adding from project. So when you add from project, it opens up a little wizard here where you can choose up to 3 levels to display. And these 3 levels are the 3 major groupings inside of SI: phase, system, and location. Once you choose one of these, it will be removed from the list, and then you can choose from the other 2. Now, we understand that a lot of you aren't going to be creating tasks by system or by location, perhaps. So you're like, well, we don't install by location necessarily, so you may not want to create the task. It's really up to you, but the point I want to make here is if you do more than 1 level, the level above will be created as summary tasks out in the software. Now, you can always use the indent and outdent buttons to fix that, but that's just a default. And the next step is where you're going to pick what phases, what systems do you want to create over here in the chart. So my example today is just going to be the 1 level of phase. And what you see here is a list of all of my phases in the project and their associated hours, because we know that data. Same with locations and systems. The major groupings in our software, we can break out the time for you to give you better estimates, what we call budgeted hours out here when added to the Gantt chart. You can pick all of these or a few of these. It's up to you. You can move them up and down in this list. Very important feature you'll see as I demonstrate this more. The move up and move down here is important because once added to this list over here, they cannot be moved up and down. It's a restriction on this control, and it has a lot to do with the predecessors that I'm going to talk about, which are often called dependencies. So that's why we give you the ability ahead of time to move these if needed, and that's really handy with checklists that you'll see in a few minutes. So let's get this started with an initial baseline for this project by phase. I know my budgeted hours, and then the duration automatically sets to that. And you can see over here as we go a little bit. Let me just shrink a little bit more. You can see here are my parts on this Gantt chart. So what now from here, you can decide if you want to add more or insert. So the difference here is when you add a task, it adds to the bottom of the list. If you insert, it will add beneath the selected row. So my example for you here is going to be using a checklist. So we're going to insert. In this case, I'm not going to just do a task or from project, but from checklist. And I'm going to choose the rough-in checklist. We just saw this briefly earlier. Now, in this case, I have the name rough-in in here for when used with a project, but I don't really need that out here right now. I already have that. So I can select any number of these. And again, I'll add them all, but I don't have to. I can pick and choose. You can move these up and down. Once again, very important, because once they're here, they're in that position. But let's go ahead and save this. Now that inserted all of these beneath my rough-in. And before I expand this name so you can read a little bit better, what I'm going to do is choose to indent these. So this is going to show you the creation of a summary task. Rough-in became summary task. Notice it went bold here, and this lit up bold. And a summary task is simply a task that has at least one subtask beneath it. And it really doesn't have any other information than a name at this point, because its duration and all that will be dictated by the tasks beneath it, which is why you can see these all came in. They came in at the same day, 8 hours apiece, the default for that, and the switch from one day. But I still have my budgeted hours here, from the project to be able to use as a reference. Now, these here can be dragged. By the way, you can take these out if you want to just drag them into a position. And I'm just moving these out here. Let's see, this one, schedule, pre-wire, label, labor. I'm just backing these up. Notice you can move them like this. You can also stretch them. Now, that's not to say you can't manipulate the time here. Absolutely. There's drop downs if you want to change them manually here. But let's say this walkthrough, for instance, is going to be over a few days. I can get my cursor there and stretch this. And you can see that it's going to react accordingly. So I've gone ahead and just stretched that out to show that functionality. So they can be dragged, they can also be stretched, and that's going to change the start and end and the duration for these. Let's talk a little bit about the predecessors now. So for instance, I can't do the installation until the walkthrough has happened, right? So I'm going to put the row 6 here as a predecessor and just tab out of here. Now, what you see just happen here, a couple of things. It added this arrow, and it pushed this task out past my weekend here, actually. And why it's doing that is we've coded this to respect your business hours. It's a setting that we've had for a while in here, in the software for calendars and scheduling. But here's where you get to set up your work days, and then what we call a holiday here would be your weekends. You know, if you don't work Sundays or Mondays versus Fridays and Saturdays, you know, you've set this up hopefully accordingly in your software, and we respect that out here on the Gantt chart. So notice what happened here, that I just typed in 6 and hit tab, and it put FS after that. Those of you that know Gantt charts, that is a predecessor type, and it means finish to start. So there's 4 different types that you can have in here, and you can manually type in those. And there's a finish to finish, start to start, start to finish, finish to start. If you don't know about those, you probably shouldn't be using them. But if you want to play around with those and go do some research on Gantt charts if you've never used one, what I want to show you here is that there's another way to add predecessors. And what I did is I just clicked the little gray box that's in here. So rather than manually type, I could have come in here and then chosen a drop down here where we show you the names of the task as well as their row number. And we have a type drop down here where you are able to choose the default being finish to start, as that's the most common, but then the rest here are in this list should you need to use those. All right, let me, again, I'm shrinking as I go, and I'm going to stretch this over here now. Just bear with me. I want to show that you can also add resources to any task here. It's not required on what we would call right now planning tasks in a Gantt chart to add resources, but you certainly could. And this is your list from SI. These are your resources. You can sort by role. Remember, resources can have multiple roles here. You can just check off as needed, and those will be listed here. Now, if you do choose to convert any of these planning tasks to scheduled tasks over in SI, a feature I've yet to talk about, we're getting there, these resources will automatically sync back and forth with SI. So while I'm here, milestones, let's talk about this. It's a Gantt chart concept for an accomplishment out here. So let's see, invoice the pre-wire deposit might be a milestone. Now, a milestone doesn't really have any true duration. It's just a point in time. Something good happened. And you'll notice that if you mark something as a milestone, it changes into a little diamond shape here and puts the date. I'll do another one here. It's another milestone. So again, Gantt chart concept that we now have here available to you. And then over here, you'll see a percent complete. It's editable manually, should you choose. The overdue will automatically fill in based on these dates and the current date. And then over here, you'll see there's an SI task status, and I'll just keep scrolling, location, system, and phase. These are just placeholders for any items that were added to this Gantt chart from the project, and you saw me do that by phase. So we track that here, and we also track that in the budgeted hours. But your SI task status and SI task and SI task number, those are all fields if you choose to convert any of these planning tasks into scheduled tasks over in SI. Another big feature that we added out here, and it's a really key one, and one that I'm about to demonstrate here, but I do want to let you know that this is the first time in history that you are able to create multiple tasks at a time for a project. It's essentially a bulk creative task should you choose to use it that way. And I'm going to show you. So a little thing to know about these planning tasks out here in the Gantt chart. We will not create summary tasks or milestones over in SI. Those do not exist to us over there. Again, a summary task is a combination of its subtasks. A milestone is really just a point in time. We do not actually create those over in SI. So you'll see a little note here when I do that. Now, this is the key part. I can select as many or as few as I want, even if I have milestones in there. We'll do the coding for you there and not push those over. But you hit the convert button here, and this is going to let me know that you can see I have I have 8 selected. Well, 6 of these are going to be created over as scheduled tasks in SI. We let you know that summaries and milestones will not be created. We also let you know that these tasks, once they're created over in SI or as a scheduled task, you can't manipulate the start and end date over in the SI task or the scheduled task. You will need to come back here to the Gantt chart and move it here, whether you do it here or drag it out here. Because of those dependencies and all that coding for these predecessors, you will need to modify and manage those here. I'll show you that shortly. And we just let you know also, until you save this Gantt chart, we're not creating anything, no scheduled tasks. So if you choose yes here, all we're doing is flagging these to be created once you decide to save this Gantt chart. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save and close. And those tasks were created here. So it was this project. So I'm going to go now to my tasks tab, and you can see there are all of my tasks for this project, or from that batch group that I just chose. Real quickly, I'll open one of these to show you our message here at the bottom. This was created from the project's Gantt view, row 7. Start and end date must be edited in the Gantt view. That's if you click open Gantt view, we'll close this and open the Gantt view for you and have that row selected for you, so then you can decide if you want to click over here and drag it or manipulate your dates. Notice here, of course, there is the SI number, and again, shrink any column that you want here. So very exciting feature, not only just to plan a project, but to be able to create multiple tasks at one time. Now, I have a feeling some of you out there aren't going to use Gantt charts for their purpose of the planning here, but more so just to insert a checklist that you've created of common names of tasks, say for Ruffin, select them all, go create those over in SI. And then the key thing that you would want to do there is then just delete them out of the Gantt view here. Once they're deleted here, the link is broken. You can move your start and end date out there in SI. So only while these exist and are linked is where they have to be controlled by the Gantt view. So just keep that in mind, like kind of a little Easter egg there, extra feature that came along with building this Gantt chart and the functionality that we spec'd for this. So, okay, let's close out of that and close out of that. The last big feature that I'm going to show you is the bulk purchase order creation. And that was another thing, just like we showed you how you can create a multiple tasks at a time, we can also do the same thing for purchase orders in this version. And there's really the main goal of this is that you can create POs for multiple vendors at a time for a single project or for multiple projects. There might be just one project that you have and you've got 5 different vendors you're buying from. Rather than having to go through and create a individual PO for each one of those, you can go through our little wizard and you can create it for that project, or you can do it for multiple projects. You can do this out in the Purchase Order Explorer, but you can also do it here. So let me bear with me here. I'm going to choose. We have this project, we have this project, and we'll do this one. So I'm going to select 3 projects here in the grid, and I'm just going to go to a purchase orders tab down here for one of them, and I'm going to choose bulk create. So next to the new button, you'll have a bulk create. Let's do that. And what this did is it automatically selected, I think it was the last project I selected out there, this Andrew Evers one, and that becomes my selected project. But you can add more projects if you want, or you could change the selected project to decide which one am I adding for first. Just so you see here, those are the 3 that I selected in that list, automatically added here. If you go to add, notice there are check boxes out here now, so you can expand a user and check off as many projects as you want to add to this bulk creation of purchase orders if you failed to do that previously by selecting them here. The next step is, this is all very similar functionality that we've had for a while now. Now we just add items here, right? So let's just add, in this case, summarized. Now, normally out here, you might filter by phase. I want to order all of the rough-in stuff for these 3 projects from these 5 vendors. Or it could be any sort of, however you order. I want to just order everything from this particular vendor for this project. Everybody does their ordering differently per project. So I'm not going to be too picky out here, everyone. I'm just going to choose a vendor and add some stuff. And I'm going to choose, let's just choose another product so you see this. So now I'm going to move on to this project. Select it. And again, don't yell at me about what I'm picking. I'm just going to choose some stuff. I'm going to say from this vendor, we're buying these. This vendor, we're going to buy these. And from good stuff, we'll get all this. We're going to add and close. And now what you see out here is I have this grouped by vendor and project. So I see Acme distributors will have, for this product, those are the items, this vendor, these projects, so forth. And it's up to you. You might just want to view it by vendor. It's just your view as you're moving through this to keep your head sane while you're adding all these items for multiple POs. The next step here is I can expand this out. And I'll stretch this interface for you so we can all see this. What you see here is, by default, we're going to show you all the vendors that you've chosen, and here's the items that you're ordering. The default for each one of these is to create a new purchase order. When you click on each one of these, it shows you the vendor name that we're going to create brand new ones. But we also let you know if you have any draft POs. So that's a PO with a status set to draft out there for these. And in this case, due to my examples, I've got 2 for this vendor, 3 for these vendors. If that's the case, and you don't want to create a new one for this particular vendor, for best price, I want to add to an existing draft, there are my existing drafts. And I can choose which one I want to associate that with versus creating a new one. And we'll go append that PO for you in SI. But in this case, we'll just do new ones, and we'll hit finish. Create 3 purchase orders, yes, and that's done. You've created 3 purchase orders. This particular project only had the one, but if we go here to, let's go to one of these. I don't know where it is. We'll have to refresh. Something like that. But they were created for those projects, for those vendors. And then, of course, you can manage those further out in your purchase order explorer should you choose to do so. So those are the major features of this release. But I do want to show you just a few more. This one, I kind of consider this major-ish. If I select a project here now, first and foremost, I did show you the business analytics earlier for like all pending change orders. Again, it's a powerful tool for project managers because again, you were never able to see that very easily before in our software at all. We would have individual tabs for change orders for projects. You couldn't get that view. Now you at least have that those business analytics, but there's also the questions come up and the request came in for a change order history for a project. So for this particular project, we've got quite a few change orders out here. Some are approved, some are rejected, some are still pending. But you'll notice here that there's a change order history. And this is for all approved change orders. What we show you out here is a lot of data. We show you the approved project first with its cost and price, margin and markup. Then we break out the product cost and price and labor cost and price for more granularity for you. And then every change order that's been accepted or approved, I should say, lists here and it shows you the breakout there. And then here's what the current project pricing is at the bottom. And you can export this to Excel or PDF should you choose to do that, but that will give you a nice view into the history of that particular project's change orders. We also, while I'm here, gave you the ability to mark a change order as pending. This was a big request. So prior to this release, you could mark a change order as approved or you can mark it as rejected. But you weren't able to back out of those once you did that, unless you were to say delete those. But there are times, and the use cases came in as, we marked this as rejected, but then the client changed their mind. I really don't want to have to go through and recreate all this stuff. There were 500 changes in this, and it's sitting right here, and I can't do anything with it because it's rejected. We understand. Now you can mark these as pending, and then we'll either, if it's been approved, we are going to back out those changes. We're going to revert back to the state it was in before, and you'll see this is just marked as pending. We let you know what's going to happen. on this particular one for this rejected change order. So more flexibility there for you in the software. And let's see. And again, this one is, we don't call it major, but it will be major to a lot of you users because it's just a long time request. As you know, we have layouts in the software. Here's a list of some default layouts. We also have custom layouts. I don't know if I have any. I don't. So I'm just going to hit new here so it lights up my fields. What I want to show you is when you are creating or managing your custom layouts on your machine now, you have an option to share them with all users. And it's an automatic thing when you check this. These will just sync out to the server. Every user will be able to see them in their list of custom layouts. So a long time request on that one. We also, along those same lines, we also gave you out here under the company information, the ability to share your QuickBooks settings with all users and to share your report settings with all users. So keep in mind, custom reports are different than that. You've always been able to share custom reports with users. That's a import export from server. But these are your report settings and the way that you want reports to run. You can share those with everybody, or again, choose not to. When choosing the QuickBooks settings with all users, you can choose whether or not you want to share the file path to the desktop, up to you. Now, of course, as with every release, we've added permissions for the new features, and you'll see those under your user group permissions. While we're here, let's just very quickly come in here and just show you that for business analytics, you can see here that for each entity, you can decide if the user can manage those. And by managing, you can't delete our stock ones or modify them. You can clone and create new ones, but managing there is, will you let them view this data and create new business analytics? Not only that, but we also respect the permissions further down that we've always had. So if a user is not allowed to see cost or price, you will not see those business analytics in your views either. So it is very specific to each user when you set up your business analytics, and especially that homepage. That is very specific to each user. We added some more custom fields for you, believe it or not, and you still want more. In our last release of version v14, we added list type fields to projects and Boolean fields, true or false for yes, no fields, right? We now added those to products and labor items in this one. And what I mean by this is list is the ability to create a custom drop-down list. Here you give it a name and you click manage on all of these, and then you can build your list of what you want for your drop-down. So those are now available for products and labor items, previously only available for projects. And again, same with these Boolean or your yes, no's for that. All right, well, that wraps up my demonstration of the new features in System Integrator v14, as well as some of the minor enhancements that we've done. We really hope that you enjoy this release and get ready for our next one. We've already started work on it. And thank you all for attending.